Hello everyone and welcome! Today we're gonna set up a secure blog with Ghost on DigitalOcean. In order to completely follow along this tutorial, you will need access to DigitalOcean in order to set up new droplets, and you will need a domain name set up that you can use. Now for this tutorial I'm obviously going to use my own domain, which is ivanskodje.com, and I will set up a subdomain such as myghost.ivanskodje.com in order to connect to our ghosts once everything is in place. So let's begin by creating our new droplet. I'm gonna click create and select droplet. From here I'm going to search the marketplace for a Docker distribution here. And there it is. Now if it's not visible on the first screen, you can just simply write here Docker and it should pop up here. Select that. I'm going to select the basic plan. I'm going to choose the cheapest options, which is $5 a month. I'm going to put it in Amsterdam, number 3. I'm not going to use a VPC. I'm only going to select IPv6. I don't need anything else, but feel free to check it out yourself if you want to know more about that. I'm going to select the password authentication to make it easier for myself. So I'm going to name the host Docker, Nginx, Let's Encrypt, and Ghost. This is just a descriptive host name to allow me to know what's on this host. I'm not going to add any tags. I'm going to select the tutorial project, which is what I'm in now, and I'm not going to enable backup. Didn't I select the password? Okay, I'm going to choose hello _ 123 _ world with capital H and capital W. Now this doesn't really matter, and we're going to disable the root anyway once we have created our droplet. So let's create a droplet here. Now while that is working, we're going to set up a subdomain to use our newly created droplet. Select your domain name, and because I'm already using Ghost for my own purposes, I'm going to create a new hostname, and I'm going to name this my Ghost, and I'm going to choose the newly created container, or rather droplet, and hit create. I'm going to add a www version as well, my Ghost. I'm going to select it once again and hit create, and that should be it. We don't need to do anything else here on DigitalOcean. What we're now going to have to do is we're going to actually have to connect to our newly created droplet. Here we go. Perfect. Okay, let's put this aside. I'm going to copy this IP. Now optionally, if you wait long enough, you could possibly connect directly to the newly set up domain names, but I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to use the IP. So I'm going to SSH into our newly created droplet, SSH root at IP address, and I'm going to choose yes. My password is hello _ 123 _ world. Thankfully I remember the password, that's good. So once we are connected to our newly created droplet, we want to disable the root users. We want to create our own user to use. So let's create our new user. I'm going to use add user demo user. Now you can name this whatever you want. It's up to you. I'm going to choose a password. I'm not going to choose anything here. I'm just going to skip everything. Yes, it's all good. Once that is done, we want to add it to a group, or rather we want to add it to 2 groups, because we want to be able to access sudo commands as well as docker commands. And we do that by using user mod ag, which is a pending group, and sudo docker. It is important to keep it in one line, don't add a space between there, and demo user, which is the name of our user. Let's connect as our user to make sure we are actually added in the correct groups. Let's add groups, and we can see we now are in our own demo user group, sudo group, and docker group, and that's good. Now just to make completely sure we do in fact have access to root commands, let's do a check on our root folder here. Sudo ls root password. Okay, let's add al so we can actually see. And we see we have access. Perfect. Now we are 100% sure we have access to root, so we can now exit in order to return to our own root user. And we want to disable our root user, and that is quite simple. You simply add pass wd l root, and now it's expired basically. So if we now exit once again, and attempt to reconnect to our server using our root. Let's say hello _123_world with big H and big W. And now you should get a message telling you that you don't have permission because the root is no more. Good, so let's try connecting again, but now I'm actually going to use our new user, which is demo user, and instead of the IP address I'm just going to use my ghost.ivanskodje.com. Hopefully that will work. I'm going to choose yes, write my password, and here we go. So when that is done, our initial setup of our droplet is complete. We're now going to install Nginx by entering sudo apt install Nginx, writing my password, and yes. If you get this message, it means you need to update. So sudo apt update. Oops, excuse me, sudo apt update. There we go. There we go. So if we try that once again, let's install Nginx by pressing up a few times and select yes. There we go. If we now try to access our website, we will not be able to because we have not set up the ports yet. So let's enable the ports we need. Now we need port 80 and 443, which is HTTP and HTTPS respectively. So let's make sure our UFW status have listed our ports, and it has not. So let's add those ports. Sudo UFW allow 80/TCP, and the same with 443 TCP. So if we now try the status again, we should see we now have both those ports open. So let's minimize this and let's go back here and take a look. I understand the risks, please take me there anyway. There we go. Excellent. Now we know Nginx is up and running. We are now going to set up our website, or rather the page we're going to use, because we want to use myghost.ivanskodje.com, and it currently redirects to the same page. We're going to fix that. Let's minimize that. Let's go back to our terminal and let's navigate to the Nginx folder. cd Nginx cd sites available. Why does that work? cd sites available. There we go. Now by default we have a default file, and that's the one that's redirecting all requests to the defaults page. But we're gonna create a new file. We're gonna create a myghost.ivanskodje.com file, and the contents look like this. We're gonna add a server. Now in the server we're gonna listen to port 80. We are going to listen to port 80 here, and then we're gonna have a server name, and that's gonna be the name of our domain, which is myghost.ivanskodje.com, and space and www.myghost.ivanskodje.com. Make sure to add the semicolon at the end of every line here. And then we're going to add the root, which is var www.myghost.ivanskodje.com. And lastly, we need a location, which is try_files URI equals 404. And then we're gonna save. We are going to create a shortcut to this file, because if you look at the sites enabled folder, you see we have a shortcut here by default. So we're gonna make one for myghost.ivanskodje.com as well. So sudo ln-s etc. Nginx sites available myghost.ivanskodje.com space dash etc. Nginx sites enabled. Enter. And it is important to use the full path because without it, the shortcut will not work properly. And now you can see both are blue, and that is good. Now before we restart Nginx, we actually have to create the folder we just pointed at in my ghost ivanskodje.com file. So I'm going to create a new directory in our var folder, www, and that's going to be our my ghost ivanskodje.com folder. And in here we're going to create our index.html, which is just going to show us that it works when we go to this domain name. So sudo var www my ghost ivanskodje.com and index.html. And in here we're going to create a very simple HTML. We're not going to add anything. We're just going to make a body and a h1. And it's going to be hello h1, and that's that. Nothing fancy here. Let's save, make sure it's correct. Yes. When that is done, we can finally restart, or rather reload our service. Sudo service nginx reload. And if we now go back to our web page and reload, it should take us to our newly created file, and there it is. Now if you go to our IP now, our IP address directly, you should be able to get the default now. You can disable this or do whatever you want with this later. We're not going to touch this for now because it's not a part of the tutorial. This is just for setting up a secure ghost. Let's close that and let's go back to our terminal once again. Now with our page up and we know the domain names are working. Actually we can double check that. Just add a www in front of there and we still get to the same page. Good. Let's add Certbot, and that's the neat little tool that allows us to secure our pages. Sudo add apt repository. We want to add ppa certbot -certbot. When that is done, I'm gonna confirm yes. We're gonna update sudo apt update. And then we're gonna install the tool itself. Sudo apt install python certbot nginx. Yes. And yes. Here we go. Let's run it. Sudo certbot nginx tag. Email ivanskodje.com. Now you should use a real email. I'm just using a fake email here. This is not actually a real email address. I'm going to agree to the terms of service. I'm going to decline this because I don't want to share my email address because it's not really real to begin with. And I want to activate HTTPS for 1 and 2 and hit enter. Now it's going to do everything by itself. You don't have to lift a single finger. And I'm going to choose 2 to redirect because we haven't set anything. We don't have any existing HTTP traffic to mention. Congratulations, your certificate and chain have been saved at So let's go here again. Let's take a look. Yes, it works. My connection is now deemed secure. Now the last part is even easier than this one. Well, except that you will have to change a little bit in your Nginx file. So let's go back. Let's go to sites available. Let's edit my ghost. And let's remove this one. We don't need that. And we don't need this one anymore. So I'm just gonna remove this. Now the way we do this is by adding a proxy pass, and that's going to be our IP address, which is 127.0.0.1, which is our local host, and the port we have the container running at, the doc container, the ghost container. Proxy pass, and you want to proxy, you want to set the header, and the host is going to be a shortcut, http_host, and the same with the others. We're going to add a few more. Set header x real IP to be the remote address. We're going to set another one, proxy set header x forwarded for proxy add x forwarded 4. There are quite a few of these. And the last one, proxy set header x forwarded proto HTTPS. Make sure to end all of these with a semicolon so it's set up correctly. Now you can also add a few tabs between here, well, or spaces at least, if you want. It doesn't really matter. So I'm just gonna save this, and once that is done, just save it. Control X, yes, thank you. Now if we reload Nginx right now, it's not gonna do anything because we haven't set up the Docker container yet. So let's do that. Let's create our Docker container. Let's navigate to our home directory. Now you can choose to do this wherever you want. I'm just gonna put it in home because it's easier to find. So let's create a nano start ghost sh. And this is a script, so I'm gonna name it as such. We're gonna remove the existing container by writing docker remove forcefully ghost myghost.ivanskodje.com. And the reasoning behind this name here is this part tells me what kind of application is running, and this tells me where it's running. So if you had you know, whatever you had here, it could be a blog, and I would use this name. But this is just me. You choose whatever you want. You can even just name it ghost. It doesn't really matter. Just make sure you put the same names everywhere. Okay, then we are going to create our container. Now all this part does is to remove the existing container if it has been created. If it does not exist, this will do nothing. It will just tell you it doesn't exist and move on. And that's what we want. So create our new container, and we are going to use volume for persistence. So docker run, we're gonna use the name ghost myghost ivanskodje.com, and that's the same name as I removed. And the dash at the end just tells us this belongs in one command. It just allows me to enter this nicely and readably. And we're going to set up the port to be 127.0.0.1, which is our local host. 2368 was the port. 2368. So this allows us to proxy ourselves, basically. So Nginx will try to connect to this and forward to this. Don't forget the dash at the end there. We're gonna add a restart equals always, because if something goes wrong, we want to make sure it restarts by itself. And we're gonna add a e URL equals https and my ghost ivanskodje.com. Now this part is important because you have to set this up correctly, because the ghost is going to use this to figure out what the root URL is. So if you mess this up, the ghost may not show up at all, or the images may not load, or you know, bad things will happen. So make sure you use the secure version and your own domain correctly here. And then we're gonna set up a volume. Yes, home user. That's me, or you in your case. My ghost. Or I'm gonna name this the same name as the name. So I'm gonna name this ghost. My ghost.ivanskodje.com. This is a folder, by the way, and in there we're gonna have a content folder, and that's gonna come from the image folder var lib ghost content, or rather the container folder that's been created by the image. And lastly, we're gonna make sure it went detached, and we're gonna use the image ghost 3 alpine and Control X save yes, please. Let's make sure to make this executable, because currently it's not executable. So I'm gonna use chmod plus x and the name of the file, and that will make it executable, and change color to green. So let's start it up. As you can see, we got an error first. It just tells me it has no image. That means the first time we run, we're gonna get this. Don't just ignore it. It's gonna pull the image if you haven't already. Since this is a newly created droplet, we don't have anything in here. Okay, so let's check if Docker is running here. And it is. Excellent. Now we haven't restarted Nginx yet, so let's make sure to do that too. Sudo service Nginx, or rather reload. You don't need to restart. You can restart too, it doesn't really matter. It's just a little slower. So let's go back here and take a look. Huzzah! It works! Now if you want to set this up, just add a -ghost at the end here. Then it will forward you to the setup page. And that's that. I hope you find this tutorial useful. If you did, let me know, and see you next time. Bye bye!